welcome to Lisa's Tom and My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet, the daughter.
And I'm Kevin, the dad.
And this week, we are giving you a user's guide to They Might Be Giants. They might be.
They might be.
So, Dad, what do we need to know?
Well, we need to know that John Linnell was born June 12, 1959 in New York City. He and his family relocated to Lincoln, Massachusetts. John Flansburgh was born May 6, 1960 in Lexington, Massachusetts. The two Johns would eventually meet at Lincoln Sudbury High School and occasionally collaborate on home recording projects. Mm-hmm. John L. studied English for a semester at UMass Amherst, but dropped out to pursue a career in music. At one point, he was a member of Rhode Island new wave band, The Mundanes.
Any good?
I can't remember that far back. Sorry.
It's okay.
Meanwhile, John F. went to George Washington University, where he learned how to play guitar whilst working as a parking lot attendant. A lot of free time. He then went to Antioch College, the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, where he eventually earned an arts degree. Eventually, the two Johns reunited in Brooklyn when they moved into the same apartment building on the same day.
Wow.
Per Wikipedia, because, what are the odds? They first performed under the name El Grupo de Rock and Roll, Spanish for the rock and roll band, and the first thing I thought of was...
When we were in Seattle.
A rock and roll group.
Yep.
And they named themselves that because the show was a Sandinista rally. They had picked another name at one time, but John F. said it was so bad that he and John L. swore never to tell anyone, not even their kids.
Whoa.
Yeah. They Might Be Giants came from a 1971 film of the same name, starring George C. Scott and Joanne Woodward.
Any good?
Never saw it. The phrase itself, George C. Scott thinks that he's Sherlock Holmes, and Joanne Woodward conveniently has the last name of Watson. Anyway, the phrase itself originally came from Don Quixote, who mistook windmills for giants. They started performing their own music in and around New York City with John F. on guitar and John L. on accordion and sax. They were accompanied by either a drum machine or a pre-recorded backing track on cassette, because it was the 80s. From 1984 to 87, they were the house band for the Pyramid Club and Dorinka. Hope I pronounced that right. They played 1 weekend a month, and by the end of the 3 years, their shows were selling out. In March of 85, they put out a 7-inch flexidisc with demos of the songs Everything Right Is Wrong Again and You'll Miss Me. At one point, John L. broke his hand, and John F.'s apartment was burgled, so they went on hiatus from performing live.
That makes sense.
However, they recorded songs onto an answering machine and advertised the phone number in local papers. They called it Dial-A-Song, and one of their slogans was, "It's a free call from work." It was difficult to gain access, though, due to Dial's popularity and the quality of the answering machines. Dial-A-Song has gone through various permutations over the decades. Currently, you can call toll-free at 844-387-6962 or check out dialasong.com or go to TMBG's YouTube channel. Meanwhile, they released a demo cassette, because, again, it's the 80s, that got reviewed in, of all places, People magazine. New Jersey indie label Bar None Records read the review and signed the Johns to a recording deal. Their first album, They Might Be Giants, go figure, came out November 4th, 1986. It sold 10,000 copies its first year. The single Don't Let's Start was released in November of 1987, a full year after the album came out. It did get airplay on MTV, and in 1 month, TMBG sold 40,000 copies. It would eventually sell 100,000 copies. And the follow-up, 1988's Lincoln, sold twice that and established the Bar None label. Lincoln, which was named after the Massachusetts town, spawned 3 singles, Anna Eng, They'll Need a Crane, and Purple Toupee. In 1989, TMBG signed with Elektra Records, the big time. A&R rep Susan Drew had been following the band since 1986. The band was given extensive creative control over their projects. Their major label debut, Flood, came out in January 1990. It spawned the singles Birdhouse in Your Soul, Istanbul, Not Constantinople, and Twisting.
Which I couldn't believe was a cover, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Flood would go on to be TMBG's best-selling album, going platinum, sales of more than 1 million copies. It is also looked on as the album that may have begun making geek culture and geek rock more mainstream. Apollo 18 came out in 1992, and TMBG was named musical ambassadors for the International Space Year. For live shows, the Johns moved away from recorded backing tracks, and recruited the supporting band, whose membership has changed over the years. John Henry came out in 1994 to reviews among critics and fans, because they thought it was too conventional. Factory Showroom came out in 1996. It would be TMBG's final album for Elektra. They left the label because they felt Elektra didn't do enough to promote the album, and they also refused to do a publicity show. Excuse me. In 1999, they put out Long Tall Weekend, which made TMBG the first major label recording artist to put out an entire album exclusively as an MP3.
Wow.
Also in 1999, they contributed Dr. Evil to Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me soundtrack. They also wrote and performed Boss of Me, the theme song to the Fox TV series Malcolm in the Middle. And in 2002, they won a Grammy for, this is a category, Best Song Written for a Motion Picture, Television, or Other Media.
Okay.
Also in 2002, they put out their first children's record, No.
Mm-hmm.
This led them to collaborating with Walt Disney Records.
Playhouse Disney. Yep.
Yep. They put out Here Come the ABCs.
Yep.
Here Come the 1-2-3s,
Mm-hmm.
which won a 2009 Grammy for Best Musical Album for Children. And Here Comes Science.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a fifth children's album on their own called Why. In 2015 on their Idlewild label. Also, for Disney, TMBG would do the theme song for Higglytown Heroes and the opening and closing songs for Mickey Mouse
Clubhouse.
Ooh, you know this stuff.
Yes, I do.
A documentary, Gigantic, A Tale of Two Johns, came out on DVD in 2003.
Have you seen it?
Nope, not yet. In 2008, they recorded a track for the 200th Strong Bad Email for Homestar Runner, and John L. provided the voice of...
The Poopsmith.
Yes. They were recruited to provide songs for the 2009 movie Coraline, but all but one were dropped.
Wow.
Other Father song was kept.
Yep.
The others were not deemed scary enough.
Oh, you know what? That's fair.
In 2018, they, along with a ton of other contributors, won an Outer Critics Circle Award for Outstanding New Score, Broadway or Off-Broadway, for the song they contributed to...
SpongeBob SquarePants.
The Broadway musical.
Yeah.
And their song was I'm Not a Loser, which is sung by...
Squidward.
Ooh, you're good.
Yep.
Meanwhile, during all the above-mentioned events, the guys are still putting out albums for grown-ups, their most recent being 2021's Book. Most recently, TMBG have been trying to perform their Flood 30th anniversary tour. It was supposed to start in 2020, but we all know how that year went.
Yeah.
It started in June 2022, but got postponed when John F. was in a car accident.
Oh, is he all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The tour resumed once more, only to be postponed again in September 2023 for reasons I was not able to find out. But it's supposed to begin again in October of 2024.
Okay.
They Might Be Giants have been eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame since 2011, and yes, they belong in there.
I agree.
As for me, I heard the bulk of their songs on WBRU and pretty much nowhere else. They were just so odd but catchy, and I was tempted to get their 2002 two-disc anthology, Dial a Song, 20 Years of They Might Be Giants, but 52 songs, I kind of held off. But luckily for me, in 2005, a user's guide to They Might Be Giants was released. I can't remember where I got it, but it must have been cheap enough for me to give it a shot. The booklet itself is mind-boggling. It lists every gig they played from 1985 to 2004.
Whoa.
There's a track-related timeline for the songs and an alphabetical list of musicians who performed on TMBG's recordings, and another alphabetical list of song titles, also up to 2004, and a list of U.S. presidents in TMBG lyrics.
Huh. James
James Buchanan tops that list, appearing in 2 songs.
Huh.
And there are other lists, and they are just all mind-boggling. I mean, if you're a geek for like useless information like I am, you'll be in heaven. Now, as I said, there were 29 songs on a user's guide. I picked 15 out of them. The majority of them are songs that I first heard on BIU, and the others are favorites. And I'll let you know which ones are which as we go on. And I suppose we could have done a 2-part episode, but hey, if condensing was good enough for Jerry Lee Lewis and Steely Dan, it's good enough for They Might Be Giants.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the full album title, according to the booklet, is Melody, Fidelity, Quantity, A User's Guide to They Might Be Giants.
Before we get into the album, I want to remind Dad of a Tumblr post I sent him, which was rating band names based on their accuracy. They Might Be Giants show up. Here's the review. They Might Be Giants, 5 out of 10. I googled everyone in this band's height. The tallest guy is only 6'1", so I wouldn't exactly consider him a giant. Then again, I can't really argue because the claim was only that they might be giants.
Okay.
So 5 out of 10. But is the music 5 out of 10? We shall see. First track, Meet James Ensor. This song might be one of the best cases for appreciating artists who suffer for their art ever. Meet James Ensor, Belgium's famous painter. My favorite lyric is, before there were junk stores, before there was junk, he lived with his mother in the torments of Christ. And everyone was like, whoa, this guy's suffering. But then they got bored and left, which, ouch, after all that man went through.
Yeah.
And this song seems silly at first, but They Might Be Giants take it seriously, and you find yourself admiring them in Ensor. And the guitar is played really well here with some harmonies layered in beautifully. Fun song that sets the vibe for the rest of the album perfectly.
Okay, this is from John Henry. James Ensor was a painter from Brussels, born in 1860 and died in 1949. His most famous painting is Christ's Entry into Brussels, 1889. And he really did live with his mother. His studio was in his parents' house from 1880 to 1917. His mother died in 1915, and he made a painting of her on her deathbed. As for the torments of Christ, that was a theme in much of his work from 1882 to 1892, even though he was an atheist. Musically, you get the accordion, their go-to instrument, and some very impressive drumming. I picked this song because Ensor keeps showing up in my New York Times crossword puzzles. It's always Belgian artist, 5 letters, Ensor. Apparently there's no other Belgian artist.
Sorry, Belgium. Next track, Particle Man. This song reminds you of the Whose Line Is It Anyway episode with Robin Williams, where he was the guest. And their prompt for scenes from a hat was unlikely superheroes, and Robin Williams comes up and goes, I'm God! I still can't believe they got Tiny Toons to do a music video for this. In the context of the video, Baby Daffy is Particle Man wrestling Triangle Man and Universe Man. Out of context, it just sounds like bad superheroes. And Particle Man isn't going to get noticed anyway due to his size. Even They Might Be Giants sing this song like they're utterly bored at how boring Particle Man is. Poor Particle Man. Maybe he'll get his due one day. Oh, and this song was absolutely musically inspired by the Spider-Man theme. I think. Depends on which one came first.
Which Spider-Man theme? Like from the old 60s?
Spider-Man.
Oh, I can see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This I first heard on BRU. This is from Flood. So there's Particle Man who does the things a particle can, but we're also informed it's not important what he's like. Then there's also Triangle Man, who hates Particle Man and wins when he fights Particle Man. Then there's Universe Man, who sounds like he came from Doctor Strange comics. He's the size of the entire universe, man. And lastly, Person Man, who lives in the garbage can. Triangle Man also beats him up and wins. And there really are no hidden meanings to this song. Yeah, it's like bad superheroes and bad guys. And I gotta ask you, musically, do you think this could pass as a sea shanty? It sounds like one.
Yeah.
Very catchy one at that.
Next track, Don't Let's Start. I think this song is about don't try to find any meaning. There's no point. If absurdism was a song, this would be it. Or maybe it's Dada? Nah, I think this is more intelligent than Dada. Anyway, this song doesn't have meaning, so don't try to analyze it. But the music video, oh my god. David Byrne and Talking Heads has to be one of their influence with some of the shots in their choreography. Absurdism you can dance and rock to. I approve.
Huh. Okay, this one from BRU. This is from They Might Be Giants. Their first single, the song that the world outs... Let me start this over. This is their first single, the song that, World Outside New York. I don't even know what that means. What is this song about, you may ask?
What is this song about?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because John L. says the lyrics were constructed to complement the melody and are not necessarily meaningful.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Talking Heads did with some of their albums, especially Speaking in Tongues. They just came up with all the music, and then David Byrne would come
Write
up
some
with lyrics
words.
that would fit to it.
Yeah.
But I gotta admit, some of them are depressing though. Like, no one in the world ever gets what they want, and that is beautiful. Everybody dies frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful. Yay. As for the phrase, don't let's start, nowadays we say, let's not start.
Mm-hmm.
And in the song, I think he just doesn't want to get into an argument.
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And musically, there's like a herky jerkiness to it,
Yeah.
but they they do a lot of herky jerky.
Next song, Istanbul.
Not Constantinople?
A song about a name change that absolutely slaps. It's just about how it's Istanbul, not Constantinople, and I could quote the whole song. Names change. Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say.
People just liked it better that way, I guess.
So if we can accept that for cities, how come it's difficult for us when people change their name? Then again, I'm sure Istanbul took some getting used to. Anyway, the opening will always be iconic with how that violin is playing maddeningly fast at soft volume, then it crescendos and now we dance. Great gem of a song. Oh, and also there's a Tiny Toons music video for this one too.
Of course there is. Yeah, this is also from BRU and also from Flood. This was written in 1953 by Jimmy Kennedy and Nat Simon to commemorate the 500th anniversary of the fall of Constantinople to the Ottomans.
Which I couldn't believe that this was a cover. It boggled my mind.
Yep. The name change occurred in 1930. Istanbul is the Turkish rendering of the Greek phrase to the city, which I guess makes sense as the Greeks founded the city and originally named it Byzantium. Constantinople came from Constantine the Great, who refounded the city in the year 324. Canadian quartet The Four Lads recorded it in 1953 and got a gold record. There's been a lot of covers. I mean, a lot, but I think TMBG's is the most well-known.
Yep.
And their version is faster than the original.
Yep.
I think they did that to capture the feel of Turkish music.
Maybe,
I think.
I don't know.
But to me, theirs is the definitive version. Best part. And I don't know if you saw the original video, which was on Liquid Television, which was an MTV animated show. Part of it is like, not really claymation, but what do they call it? Stop motion animation. And the other is like regular animation. And it is chaotic and also highly recommended.
Oh, okay. How come they had so many, excuse me. How come they had so many music videos with Tiny Toons?
I don't know. Maybe they like them.
I'll look that up later. Next track, Purple Toupee. I'm 99% sure this song has no meaning, or it's about being on drugs in the 60s, so don't try to understand this song because you won't. Favorite lyric? Chinese people were fighting in the park. We tried to help them fight. No one appreciated that. And the playing kicks ass on here, especially with that guitar slide. A song where there's no meaning, but you can tell that the people who wrote this are smart in their songwriting while trying to convey no meaning.
Yep, I also heard this on BRU, and this is from Lincoln. 2 Prince songs inspired Purple Toupee.
Oh, yeah. Raspberry Beret.
And, come on,
Purple Rain.
You go very good. John L. says the lyrics recount a warped memory of the 1960s. Like he was actually taken to the World's Fair, which gets mentioned, and he kind of vaguely remembers the It's a Small World exhibit. Reading the lyrics, it's like the 60s U.S. history put in a blender. We get Martin X instead of Malcolm X. We get Free the Expo 67 instead of Free the Chicago 7. Musically, this song has an odd structure. It's verse, chorus, verse, then it gets to the bridge, and then it just ends. Because for me, it's like, I think, okay, they're going to go back to Purple Toupee, which showed the way, but nope, just ends.
Oh, so I did some research about Tiny Toons. So I guess on February 1st, 1991, the 51st episode of the series, entitled Tiny Toons Music Television, first aired. The episode broke the format of the series and consisted of 5 animated music videos starring the show's characters. The first 2 were Istanbul, Not Constantinople, and Particle Man. And then it goes on to, talk about John Flansburgh expressed his disapproval at being portrayed as Hampton, a pig, in the Istanbul video, although they realize he may be portraying Mark Feldman, who played violin on the track. And they conclude with, they were contacted by Warner Brothers for the project, and the videos were the easiest they made, as they had relatively nothing to do with them. And the final sentence is, while TMBGs seem not to think much of the cartoons themselves, they do credit the exposure they gained from Tiny Toons as important steps in their career.
Oh, that's good.
So now. All right, next track. James K. Polk. A crash course on the Napoleon of the Stump, our 11th president. Here's your general summary. Obtained the Southwest from Mexico, got the Oregon Territory from Britain, established an independent treasury, And when he did everything he wanted to, he called it quits in one term. An interesting song to listen to, and with today's news, but also in the age of 1776, Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson and Hamilton. This is one for the nerds who love history, not the ones who only like history when it's cool. And thanks to this, James K. Polk is now immortalized. And yes, I saw your look at Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson. That was a punk rock musical with the title song, not the title song, but the song Populism, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Factory Showroom. And James K. was the 11th President of the United States, and he was a dark horse candidate at the DNC, never expecting in a million years he'd actually win the nomination. And when he did, he stated he never sought office and would only serve one term, and son of a gun, he kept his word, and he did it. And yes, he also accomplished the 4 goals that he had in mind as president, that which you mentioned, and the Giants incorporate all of them into the song. Now, here's the thing. He left office in March of 1849 and died of cholera, which he picked up in Louisiana, in June of 1849 at the age of 53. Wow. So he had a short post-presidential life. Wow. At one point, they mentioned, describe him as austere and severe. And if you look at photos of him, yeah, he definitely lives up to those 2 words. He does not look like a fun guy. He was all about just getting it done. This song, I think, could have been a Schoolhouse Rock episode.
I think so, yeah.
Plus, you get the singing saw solo.
Yeah.
Which, very rare.
Next track, Birdhouse in Your Soul. So before I found out what this song was about, it was the They Might Be Giants song I was the most freaked out by. The performance in the music video doesn't help either. Then I learned it's a kid talking to a nightlight, and the song took on a whole more innocent meaning. The first one I didn't really enjoy because it was the first time I felt lost and on edge.
Oh, you're very close. Okay, I first heard this on BIU, and this also is from Flood. And this is actually sung from the viewpoint of the canary-shaped blue nightlight.
Oh, okay.
And the light tells us it's our friend, but not really a friend, not actually a friend, which I kind of get because, yeah, I'm your friend helping you, not trip over your stuff in the bedroom at night, but I don't do much beyond that.
Yeah.
It also cites the lighthouse that did a lousy job guiding Jason and the Argonauts, and how
Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah, and how the Canary Nightlight would be fired if it provided the same kind of service. And it also references the Longines Symphonette, which, knowing me, I had to look up. That was a classical music radio show that ran from 1943 to 1957, and it was sponsored by Swiss luxury watchmaker Longines. Now, musically, John L. programmed a snare drum sound to play on every single beat. He then created the demo with a standard beat with the snare coming in on the 2 and 4, but the producers rejected it, and John L. said that saved the song. And I think it's their hottest song, and for me, that's saying something considering their other songs.
Yeah. Next track, Anna Ang. Or it's interesting because the actor for Uncle Roger, he spells his last name the same way, but it's Nigel Ang. So it's just interesting.
Could be a British American thing.
The part of the song I related to the most was "They Don't Need Me Here and I Know You're There," and the most beautiful lyric was the one that said, "When I was driving once, I saw this painted on a bridge. I don't want the world, I just want your half." If there is meaning for this song, I see this as being about that one person you want to be with when work is kicking your ass and you just want to go home and be with them. It took a little time for this song to grow on me before I found something I could identify with.
This I also first heard on BIU, and this is also from Lincoln. And this is one of their longest songs, clocking in at 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Now, the lyrics about shooting a gun through a desktop globe, that came from a Pogo comic strip, in which the characters decided that they were going to dig a hole in China. However, one of the characters took a gun, shot it through a globe to see where it would come out based on where they were located, and if they had dug straight through, they would have wound up in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and it was at that point that the digging stopped.
Yeah.
Now, as for Anna Ng, John L. said he was collecting song ideas and was looking through a phone book, which, for those of you of a certain age, we had what was called a phone book, which was a book that contained phone numbers, residences, businesses, and they used to be in what we called phone booths, which I won't get into.
But you could buy a phone book for your house too, the white pages and the yellow pages.
Well, no, those would all be automatically delivered every year.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
cool. I thought you
yeah.
had to buy those.
No, it was just a service that was provided back when, rotary phones were a thing.
Oh, that's nice.
Anyway, he was looking through a phone book and noticed that there were 4 pages of names with the last name Eng. He was fascinated because it had no vowels, and yet a lot of people in New York City had this as a last name. He called one of the numbers and got a phone machine saying, Dr. Eng is not in. And he had his song. Anna Eng is someone that they've never met.
Mm-hmm.
Musically, I've always found it to be like spiky and sharp and brittle, which I guess they're all the same word. Um, it's not my favorite song by them, but get this. For about the past 3 or 4 days, I cannot get it out of my head.
Next track, Bangs. For some reason, every time a girl goes through a mental health crisis, they get bangs. Don't know why. That's just the stereotype, and sometimes it's true. This is the first song that feels dated. It feels very 2000s Y2K pop rock, and it sounds like something that'd be on the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack. It's giving Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but it feels comfortably dated. Gives you nostalgia for that time. It's a perfect time capsule of a 2000s fashion fad, and they're being wholesome about it, not total creeps.
Yeah. This I also heard from BRU, and this is from the album Mink Car. And someone is obsessed with a girl who had bangs, because I'm only holding your hands so I can look at your bangs. Now, per Wikipedia, the term referred to uh, the haircut called the bang off, which was straight across the front.
Yep.
And it's probably related to the term bang tail, which is cutting a horse's tail straight across. Yeah, it's definitely conventional power pop, which isn't a problem for me. I like the song, it's very catchy, but yeah, someone is definitely obsessed with bangs, and I'm sure there's probably a website out there to take care of that particular need.
Next track, The Statue Got Me High. I see this song as an ode to anyone who's ever gotten immersed in a work of art at a museum, because I feel like museum goers can relate to this. You see a piece of art that captivates you to the point you can't move. For TMBG, it's a statue. For me, it's often paintings of sunsets. For them, though, it's an admiration that borders on obsession, but there's worse things to get high on.
This I heard on BIU first. This is from Apollo 18. Now, John L. was thinking of a song called The Apple of My Eye, and he came up with The Statue Got Me High, which he thought was amusing. The statue itself would be in a public square representing something or someone in the past, and the viewer has some sort of epiphany. The stone, it called to me, and now I see the things the stone has shown me. And it seems at one point he's inspired to start a fire, but the evidence has vanished. The firemen just find a statue where the statue got him high. I think that means that they don't see what John L. saw. But then he says, like, now it's your turn, and maybe you'll see what he saw. Maybe.
Next track, Dr. Worm. My first note, we got brass? This might be my favorite song musically because they go hard with the drums and incorporate a variety of instruments. And the song is really sweet, about Dr. Worm the drummer, who is learning and thinks he's getting better but can take criticism. A song about a simple man with simple dreams. We love to see it.
This is from Severe Tire Damage. Dr. Worm is not a doctor, but he is a real worm, an actual worm who plays the drums. Even though worms have neither hands to grasp the sticks nor feet to work the bass and hi-hat pedals.
He just flails around.
But he can twirl the sticks, so he must be really, really good to be able to do at least that. And he's very polite. Good morning, how are you?
Yeah.
Plus, like you said, he can handle criticism and wants to know if you think he's getting better on the drums. Which, should I ask you if you think I'm getting better on the drums?
I've only heard snippets of you, Dad. I haven't heard the full thing.
And the thing that surprised me is this is very horn driven, which I really like, but you'd think it would be more drum centric, but it's not a problem for me at all. It's just so catchy. And Rabbi Vole chips in with a simple guitar solo.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's not a rabbi, but he probably is a real Vole.
Can I just say that I'm grateful that when you didn't do when I was dating Mike and you found out he was a drummer, you didn't give the "so you want to date my daughter, we got a drum paddle for it." I'm very grateful for that.
Well, because I think off the top I know I would have lost. So.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
No, I not even would have thought of that. And plus, it's like you have to have 2 drum sets in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, that's
now
hard.
he can go off and do his
thing, and you
drum
could
thing,
do
and
your
I'll
thing.
do my drum thing, and we'll respect each other's drum boundaries.
Kumbaya. Next track, Boss of Me. I think it's safe to say this is a breakup song with the attitude of nya 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 nya. It's annoying the first few times, but then at the end you realize how empowering it is to say you're not the boss of me now and you're not so big. And the ending sounds triumphant. Good for you, guy.
This is the theme from Malcolm in the Middle, so it's from that soundtrack. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
everyone knows the chorus, "You're not the boss of me," and the line, "Life is unfair." And I think those two lines pretty much summed up the show, which I've seen bits and pieces. I've never seen a whole episode. Um, I know Bryan Cranston was in the show
Yes, he was.
as Hal, the dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've seen bits and pieces, and what I saw was pretty funny. And I don't know, maybe if it comes on like some sort of streaming service that we have, I'll give it a shot.
Have you
And
seen it where they recreated the Newhart ending?
yes,
But with
Breaking
Malcolm in the
Bad,
Middle?
that
Yeah.
was hysterical.
I was this meth dealer.
This this song does rock, and it's very in your face, which it should be with that chorus.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the boss of me.
Next track, They'll Need a Crane.
They will.
I think this song is about what happens when you're in a loving relationship and things fall apart, but you're too blind to fix it. And if you don't fix the problems that you have, then the relationship is going to deteriorate and get worse until you snap, like the lead character of this song. I love how in the music video they're collaborating with older musicians who look really happy to be there. One of the comments sums this up really well: a jolly song that fools you. Because things are now so irreparable, they're gonna need a crane.
Yep. This I also heard on BRU, and this is from Lincoln. And I gotta say, I really didn't pay attention to the lyrics until it was podcast time. Yes, our relationship is falling apart, so it needs a crane for a few things. One, to take the house he built for her apart. And two, also to pick up the broken ruins again to mend her heart and to help him start to see the world apart from pain. It's really sad, but happy music disguises that.
Yeah.
Which, is that what rock and roll is? Happy music about sad stuff?
Sometimes, not always. Next track, Dr. Evil. Okay, we covered this one in our episode about songs for the James Bond franchise, and you could tell that the band members genuinely love not only those movies, but the Austin Powers movies. Once again, the arrangement sounds like a big brass 60s band, and shout out to the singer doing her best Shirley Bassey. This would have been, it was perfect to use in the Austin Powers movie because you could tell it's silly, but the singer sells it with the drama and seriousness in her voice. So if you're a James Bond fan, definitely add this to your playlist.
Yep, this is from, obviously, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, which I can't remember if I saw that one or not. I definitely saw the first one, and I saw Goldmember, but this one, I really can't remember. This is a hilarious parody of the James Bond themes, specifically Goldfinger, and the lyrics are fall down funny. When your name is evil, that is good, or so you think, but you're very wrong. It's evil, but being wrong is right. So when you're good again, which is the evilest thing of all.
Yep.
You're like, okay, I'll go along with that. Robin Goldwasser, who's married to John F., she does the terrific Shirley Bassey parody.
She did a good job.
Unbelievable. They get everything right on that one, and it's probably one of my favorite songs by them.
Final track. No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
No?
No.
Aww.
I didn't think that we were going to get any of their songs for kids on here, but I'm glad we're covering one of them, especially because that's how I knew them growing up, from Higglytown Heroes and They Might Be Giants, Here Come the ABCs, which is why it boggled my mind that they wrote music for adults when I was so used to hearing the stuff they wrote for kids. And I think it's kind of written to be like a Mr. Rogers song, but more tongue-in-cheek, because it tells kids that no definitively means no. And to help the kids understand, they also give examples of the body language people have when they really mean no, pointing fingers and mouth in the shape of a letter O, that way the kids can recognize it. I think this would also be a good song for kids to teach them about consent. When someone says no, it really means they don't want to do something, and it rocks.
Yeah, obviously this is from the album No, which is the worst word in the world for any kid to hear. No is no, no is always no. And as a parent, I've probably said no more than yes. And it's not easy, but it has to be done. Oh, and here's the thing. Kids give that word right back to their parents, usually followed by, I don't wanna.
Or no way.
Yeah.
This is also interesting because Mike and I just watched the episode of Kim's Convenience where there's that Janet's art professor comes to the convenience store and the little kid starts messing things up and she won't tell her child no. Which is just maddening.
And the Giants get the bummer of no across in 90 seconds.
Yep.
And there's only one other word that might be worse to a kid than no.
What?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Because that more than often than not translates to no. But it's like, as the parent, you're delaying the inevitability, whilst at the same time, you're presenting the possibility of a yes.
Or also the other worst one, which is 2 words, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
no. That we'll see
But sometimes, I think maybe once or twice it turned into a yes.
Yeah.
But most often, it was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see was like, okay, your mom and I have to talk this over and figure it out.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If someone comes out with a book of parenting, I would still be one of the first people in line to buy it.
Yep.
Because parenting isn't over until you're dead. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. You made the choice to have me. I didn't make that choice.
I'm still going to parent the living crap out of you until I'm dead.
Yes, I know. Overall, They Might Be Giants was a pleasant surprise.
Oh, good.
Because I thought, based on the few songs of theirs I had listened to as a kid and as a teenager, that I knew what they were about, but their songs still took me by surprise because of the wonderful absurdism that they really lean into. Not all the songs will be for you, but they're definitely interesting to listen to, and you kind of can't turn away because of how they express their messages. They're weird and they're being themselves, and you really enjoy it. So give this album a try. I think you'll be surprised by what you find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, I love this CD. It's a great intro to the band, and at 29 songs, it might be all the Giants you'll ever need. I kind of know it is for me.
Yeah. All right, so as always, thank you for listening to the latest installment. My dad listens to this. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. The more you interact with the YouTube video, the greater chance we have of appearing on the YouTube homepage. If you follow me on social media, I post the episodes there. If you're friends with my dad, tell him what you want to listen to, and he can send it to you in an email right to your inbox. As always, thank you for listening to the latest installment. My dad listens to this. We will be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about. Dad, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yes, a bit of advice. Never confuse TMBG with TMNT.